Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to episode 26 of Evil Angels, Demons, and the Occult, The Dark World. We're now going to look at Appendix 3. Who were the sons of God who married earthly women in Genesis 6? Could they be angels? One of the most contested passages in the entire Bible is found in the 6th chapter of the book of Genesis. It reads as follows. Now, when humankind began to multiply on the face of the ground and daughters were born to them, then the sons of God saw the daughters of men were good, and they took for themselves wives, any they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not remain with humankind forever, since they are flesh, so their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, whenever the sons of God came to the daughters of men and gave birth to them. Those were the mighty men of old, men of renown. That's Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. Now, it's widely believed that the sons of God in this context refer to angels. So here's the question. Is there convincing evidence for this position? Okay, first we're going to look at what we call the angel view or the angelic view. To determine this, we will examine in detail the popular view that the sons of God in Genesis 6 were actually angels who had sexual relations with earthly women, variously called the daughters of men, the daughters of mankind, the daughters of humans, or the daughters of humankind. Now, according to this theory, they produce offspring who are half angels and half human beings. The Nephilim. The Nephilim corrupted the earth to such a degree that it caused God to send a flood to wipe out everyone on the planet except for the family of Noah. So, for lack of a better term, we're going to call this the angel view or the angelic view, and we're going to use these terms interchangeably. While this is a general summation of the angelic view, there are some differences among those who hold to this theory. However, all of them embrace the idea that the sons of God were supernatural beings, not humans. Now, first, we want to recommend how to read our response or how to listen to our response to this. Before we list the arguments for and against the angel view, we have a couple of recommendations for reading or listening to our response. First, we have recommendations for the lay reader. Next, we will make other recommendations for anyone who is teaching on the subject or who has a desire to teach it. Now, first for the lay reader. Since we have gone into great detail to answer this question, it's over 40 pages long, about 45 pages long, we recommend that most readers should do two things. First, look at the points we have listed under the next heading, 20 facts we know for certain about the possibility of angelic involvement in the Genesis flood. This will give an overview of the facts essential to understanding this debate. Next, go to the summary where we have simplified the points that we have made. It is thorough enough to touch every basic point that we have made, but it saves the reader from having to examine all the detailed arguments. In other words, you don't have to listen to the various arguments or read the various arguments we have. The summary will kind of say it all if that's what you're interested in, getting the gist of it. Now, of course, if you want to read the in-depth arguments, you're certainly welcome to it. Now for the Bible teacher. For those who either taught on the subject or planning to do so, we highly recommend reading everything written in this appendix. In doing so, the Bible teacher will gain a comprehensive understanding of all the main issues that are involved, as well as the main arguments used for both sides. This will allow the teacher to engage with the various arguments and then teach their people with a more thorough understanding of the issues at hand. All right, so we're at part one here, and part one is going to be 20 facts that we know for certain about the possibility of angelic involvement in the Genesis flood. That's all we're going to do in this particular episode. In the next episode, we're going to begin to look at arguments for and against the angelic theory. And then after that, we're going to look at some problems with the angelic theory. Then finally, the summary. So this is going to be in 4 parts, and each part we'll start a new video for each one, and you'll figure it out on the way along. It's not that difficult. But first, right now, 20 facts that we know for certain about possibility of angelic involvement in the Genesis flood. Before we look at the case for and against possible angelic involvement in the Genesis flood, there are at least 20 facts that everyone who examines this issue can agree upon. In other words, these are facts that are beyond dispute. Now, this is the way I like to deal with certain issues. Let's start with dealing with what we know first. First and foremost, let's figure out what everyone can agree upon and then go from there. And this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to deal with this question. So in this episode, all we're going to do is list 20 specific facts that we know for certain about the Genesis flood. And we're going to revisit them a number of times and say it over and over again. But this is going to be what we lay as our groundwork for. All right, let's look at the 20 facts. Fact 1, there is no specific mention of angels in the immediate context of the flood account, Genesis 6 through 8. In other words, you look at Genesis chapter 6 through 8, you will not find the word angels mentioned at all, none in the least. Fact number 2, there is no specific mention of angels in the larger context of Genesis, either before or after the flood. In other words, Genesis chapter 1 through 5 and chapters 9 through 11, nothing whatsoever, nowhere in Genesis the word angel is used or angels are mentioned. Fact number 3, the first specific mention of angels in Scripture is found in Genesis 16:7, where Hagar and Ishmael are visited by the angel of the Lord. And so that's the first time the word angel is used in the Bible, in the book of Genesis. That's fact number 3. Fact number 4, nothing anywhere in Scripture clearly names angels as one of the reasons for the flood. This is a point we're going to make over and over again. Nowhere in Scripture are angels clearly named as one of the reasons for the flood. Fact number 5, and this one here is huge. The idea that angelic involvement may have been a contributing reason for the flood would never have been an issue if not for only one phrase in Genesis 6:2 and 6:4, the sons of God. In other words, without this one phrase in Hebrew and in our English translations, the sons of God, there would never have been any idea whatsoever, any theory that angels were involved in any way with the Genesis flood. Okay, and this translated, of course, the sons of God. Fact number 6, the exact Hebrew phrase sons of God in Genesis chapter 6:2 and chapter 6 verse 4 is used only twice, word for word, elsewhere in Scripture. And that's in chapter 1 of Job, Job 1:6, and Job chapter 2 and verse 1. It's the only times in Scripture the exact phrase is used, sons of God, that's B'nai HaElohim, that's used in Genesis 6:2 and 6:4. Now, here's fact number 7. We know that the phrase sons of God refers to righteous heavenly beings in Job. Why? Because of the context. The context tells us these are righteous heavenly beings. Now, fact number 8 is extremely important. We're going to revisit this a number of times as we go through this. A similar phrase, you are the sons of the living God, is used in Deuteronomy 14:1 by the same author, Moses, who compiled or wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch. This phrase is definitely referring to humans. So in Deuteronomy 14:1, the children of Israel are called, you are the sons of the Lord your God. Basically the same phrase as Genesis 6:2 and 6:4. And so this is used specifically here of humans, the children of Israel. Fact number 9, accordingly, when the only other time the similar phrase is used by Moses, it is speaking of human beings. And again, this is important. The only other time in the first 5 books of the Bible, this exact phrase or a similar phrase is used is found in Deuteronomy 14:1, and it definitely refers to human beings, not to angels. Fact number 10, Hosea 1:10 records the Lord using a similar phrase. They will be called sons of the living God. And this too refers to human beings. It's almost exactly the same phrase as Genesis 6:2 and 6:4. Fact number 11, the Nephilim are said to have been upon the earth both before and after the flood. They are described as mighty men, men of name, or humans. Scripture does not specifically say they were the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. And we'll deal with that later in more detail, but this is very clear. Scripture doesn't specifically say that the Nephilim were the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. Fact number 12, if angelic marriage to earthly women were a cause for the flood, then it must be decided whether the angels involved were good angels or evil angels. And this is going to be a key point we're going to revisit a number of times. If angelic marriage to earthly women were a cause for the flood, then are we dealing with good angels or are we dealing with evil angels? Fact 13, if wicked angels, then why are these evil angels called the sons of God? There is no term used anywhere else in Scripture that is remotely similar when it refers to the unrighteous or the evil angels. All right, fact number 14. If good angels were involved with earthly women, then this must mean there was a second angelic rebellion. Why do we say this? Well, the first had to have previously occurred because the serpent, who was later identified with the devil in Genesis chapter 3, tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden. Scripture is clear that Satan is the leader of these evil angels. And so one may want to argue that there was no rebellion of the angels before the era of the Genesis flood, but this is not usually the case. So if they were good angels, then you have to have a second rebellion here, a rebellion the Scripture knows nothing about. Fact 15, Scripture makes it clear that the flood was specifically sent because of the sin of humans. In fact, we're going to see 9 times in the context of Genesis, it specifically says, because of human sin, the flood was sent. Fact number 16, nowhere in Scripture are angels explicitly condemned for the occurrence of the flood. While humans are condemned 9 times in the context, nowhere, any place in Scripture are angels ever explicitly condemned for the occurrence of the flood. Fact number 17, Jesus likened his second coming to the days of Noah. That's Matthew 24 and verse 37. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be, Jesus said, in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. Fact number 18, there is nothing predicted in Scripture that angels will have sexual relations with women at the time of Jesus' second coming or the return of the Nephilim. Nothing remotely taught in Scripture along that line. Fact number 19, the Hebrew phrase took wives in Genesis chapter 6 is a standard Old Testament phrase for a legitimate marriage. And this is another very important point. The phrase took wives that we see in Genesis chapter 6 is the standard phrase for a legitimate marriage. And finally, fact number 20, Jesus said that angels do not marry. Luke 20 and verse 36. So these 20 facts we've looked at are indisputable. So for those who contend that the sons of God were angels who had sexual relations with earthly women, must be able to convincingly respond to these 20 facts. Now, let's remember something, and if you're new to us, everything we say here is on our website, educatingourworld.com, in a PDF file under the heading The Unseen World, where books you can download. We have 65 books available. There's 11 different topics. One of them is called The Unseen World. And this book, Evil Angels, Demons, and the Occult, is there in a portable document file that you can download, print, read out, or whatever you want to do. It's there for yours, and it's always free. Everything we do is free here. So you can follow along with what we're saying, if you wish, as we go through this. All right, so this is our first part of our 4 parts here, dealing with the angels, the angelic view in Genesis chapter 6. Next time, we're going to start part 2, and that is the case for and against the angel view. And we'll explain how we're going to proceed with this again, and so you can follow along with us. But we've set the table right now, 20 specific facts. And these are very important that everyone agrees with. You have to deal with these. If you're going to argue for the angelic view, how do you explain these 20 facts? So we're going to go through these again, like I said, over and over again, where you'll find out why we reject the idea that angels were involved in this Genesis chapter 6. And the sons of God do not refer to angels, but actually to human beings. All right, we'll pick this up next time. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks again for watching. Until then, may the Lord richly, richly bless you.